Hey everyone, welcome to a special summer playoff edition of the North American Challenger Series. I'm David Freak Turley. Alongside me is a man who upgraded his game from an A+ to an S- for the playoffs here. It's Aiden Zyrene Moon.
I never get that S+. I don't know how the system works. I've been assisting you. I haven't died yet. I'm still here.
You should put more wards down. Your vision game is not very good, but these guys are actually doing pretty well for themselves. After battling through a 10-game or 11-game, 5-week regular season, the top 4 teams in North America have emerged. And today's semifinal match is second-place Renegades up against third-place Team Imagine. And this is a best-of-3 battle. The winner advances to the Challenger Finals next week.
And tomorrow, the semis continue as first-place Team Coast takes on Cloud9 Tempest. The team who claims first at the end of these playoffs will automatically enter the NALCS next split, replacing Team Dragon Knights. Second and third will play in the Spring Promotion Tournament against Team 8 and Enemy Esports, and that happens on September 5th and 6th.
Now, today's best-of-3 matchup is just about ready to begin, so Renegades going up against Team Imagine. We're going to put the Renegades roster up on your screen, go down them one by one. They had chosen, by the way, blue side for their games. Renegades higher seed got side choice for 1 and 3, though chose blue. Team Imagine chose blue for game 2, and now we are going to check out the starting lineups. I was incorrect, but those are going to be up on your screen. Starting up in the top lane for Renegades, RF up here, who's actually been pretty solid and able to play a lot of different things for the team.
He's very versatile. He doesn't actually have any #1 slot for top laners, except for wards placed. He's very good at the vision game, and he attributes a lot of that to Crumbs helping him out. And then they also open up the map for Alex Each. So RF, although he's not an amazingly stellar top laner, he has versatility in his book, and he's a team player.
And he's been solid for a challenger. Now, you talked about Crumbs. We're going to put him up on your screen next. Crumbs is actually kind of the king of the vision game here in the jungle. You had said he wanted to play more of a vision style now with Renegades, and now he's got a mid laner they can do that for, and Crumbs has just been a good tank for the team.
Yeah, he places a lot of wards, and he's always wanted to play that type of style. Most wards killed and most wards placed per minute out of all junglers in the North American Challenger Series. So that actually does take a toll on him, though, because his kill participation is the lowest of all junglers in the North American Challenger Series. So he's helping his teammates out, but they're getting kills by themselves without him once he helps them.
Yeah, the obvious stats don't show up, but Crumbs definitely having a good impact on the team. Well, the guy it's all centered around here, of course, in the mid lane. Alex Each here, one of the most hyped players, probably the most hyped player in Challenger this year, has done just wonderful things for carrying this team.
Yeah, he does so much for the team. He has the highest CS differential at 10 of all mid laners. He has the most damage dealt per minute out of everybody in playoffs. And on top of that, he has the highest kill participation out of all mid laners in playoffs as well. He's just doing so much work, and the team is really the Alex Each show.
And he's just done an amazing job for him. So all those ward plays we're seeing from the top lane of the jungler obviously fitting up here. Now, Maple Street has actually been nothing but consistent for the team here. He's winning his lanes. His KDA is an amazing 12.0. And even though Jeebus plays some of the time, Maple's here today.
Every time Maple's on the roster, it's kind of Maple gets to fend for himself in a free lane, cause split push pressure, and then the 4 other people go and make plays. So when Maple's on the roster, he's kind of the sacrificed lane as bait. If people go towards him, it's the trap. Or he's not always in the big team fights, but he always causes pressure.
And he only got 5 deaths in his roughly 6 games played so far in this split, so it's been pretty good for him no matter what. And we move on to his lane mate here, Remilia on support. Cloaked in shadow, but still a very strong player. Known, of course, for her Thresh play. There's montages out there, but has been picking up other things as well.
Yeah. She doesn't really have any big stats, but the thing that you can't measure in statistics is her engages. She's the member of this squad that starts the team fights off. It's not going to be Alex. Crumbs is playing the vision game. He plays the Nidalee, the Echo. She's the one starting these fights off with the hook, with the binding, and with the catch.
Yeah, so that's been working out. It's a pretty solid roster. Renegades, the second place team overall for this one. They even tied for first place, lost the tiebreaker here. But the one player we really have to talk about when we bring Renegades together is Crumbs in the jungle here, the big vision player. He's had great gank pressure as well, and he's the guy who puts it all together.
And like I said, he's been very aggressive early. He places the most wards, and he clears the most wards per minute out of all junglers in the North American Challenger Series. But he helps his team out so much, and they have this thing that they kind of lost near the end, because Renegades came in as they looked very good, right?
Yeah, they were the favorites.
But then near the end, they started losing some games. They weren't picking them up, and that Alex Each Crumbs synergy seemed to be a little lost, because it would be gank Alex's lane, go top, help RF, he can teleport to a lane fight. They've been not going back to that strategy, and the games they did lose, they blamed on champion select. So I want to see them have a good champion select and get back to that formula, because it was working.
Yeah, absolutely. Renegades were undefeated up until they matched up against Coast in I want to say week 4? Yes, no, I'm breaking myself apart. Week 3 was when they fought them. And Whatever. Either way, it was a close one, and I, for some reason, can't remember the game.
It was week 4.
It was week 4. I was right the first time around. I confused myself because there was a tiebreaker on my sheet, and I counted wrong. Either way, the other team in this match, actually no slouches, Team Imagine, have been on an absolute tear in the recent past. They've won their last 4 games in a row. Looked very convincing. Their top laner, Chunky Fresh, actually pretty underrated, honestly. He was on Fusion and didn't look that good, but as a solid engaged tank player, he's done a lot for this team.
Exactly. His engages on Sion, Hecarim are what start these team fights off. Even though he's losing lane a little bit, he makes up for it with... I haven't really seen anybody use Sion the way he has. Even he just walks up and then point-blank ulties them for a 3-man. He always sees those opportunities and grabs them, and it helps Imagine out a lot.
Yeah, he's a great team fighter. Now, moving on, though, they've got a big tank in the top lane, but Moon in the jungle, actually. Much more of a carry player here. Management says he's the up-and-coming star in North America for junglers.
He does the most percent of his team's damage out of all junglers in the North American Challenger Series. So he's a big chunk of the damage that comes to the table here. You can see with just his picks, the Evelynn, the Nidalee, that of course he's going to have that type of stat line, but with Chunky Fresh being the main tank, he doesn't have to be, and Moon is stepping up. This guy wasn't even Challenger last year, and now he's in the Challenger Series playoffs this year. He's just showing great improvement, and that's why Imagine picked him up. Absolutely,
very impressive player. And meanwhile, though, you've got a new star here at Imagine, but one of the old standouts, ManCloud, is back for another Challenger split. He's here. He's played in every single LCS split. He's played in a bunch of Challenger splits now as well. Big teamfight mage player, and he's just one of the damage sources.
Yeah, he's a damage source, but he does need to step it up in these playoffs. He's up against Alexic, and you can see he's down more than any other mid laner in CS differential at 10 minutes, and also his damage per minute is rather low. He's the lowest of all mid laners in playoffs. So ManCloud does need to go up that extra notch if he wants to take on Alexic today.
Well, we'll see if he can do it, because at the same time, though, there's still plenty of other stars on this roster. Steelback in at AD carry. He's only played 4 games with the team so far, but it's been so impressive with him on the roster. 2 deaths. Ridiculous, honestly, stat line from him. 37 kills. That's not a typo. He's got 37 kills in 4 games with 2 deaths.
And it's not only what Steelback is doing for himself in the lane, it's what he's doing for the entire map and off the Rift. He's helping this team come together and learn lane swaps, learn how to play League of Legends at a professional level. And that's something that's really big in Challenger, because people come in from ranked 5s, they don't have structure, and when you have that veteran experience coming down from a very recent team that has international experience, it definitely trickles over.
And meanwhile, the last player on this roster, Baby on support here. He's played a couple of games the LCS stage, was part of the CLG sub-squad, but he's up there to be a secondary tank alongside their top laner, Chunky Fresh, to make things happen.
And he's a big enabler for Steelback in the lane. He has the highest kill participation of all supports in playoffs, so nothing happens without this bottom lane on Imagine having a say in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So to tie it all together, where there's one player we're of course going to highlight, you guys know who it is. The former Fnatic AD carry Steelback is really our MVP of this team. He has done so much work for this roster, kiting around in team fights and being an extra voice of reason in terms of putting this team together.
And there's 2 actually very funny things about this, because I talked about how a lot of these members like Chunky Fresh, ManCloud don't have very high damage output. Well, Steelback has the 2nd highest damage output of all playoff players, right behind Alexic. And he also has not only the highest kill participation for AD carries, the highest kill participation out of everybody in playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, he's just been everywhere.
He is all over the map, and the team rotates around him, and that's how this team has been operating, because they've gone through so many different rosters. Imagine replaced multiple members, and then when they found Steelback, they immediately shot up 4-0, undefeated after that, and now they're in playoffs. When are they going to lose their first game with Steelback?
I actually don't know if it's even going to be today here. Imagine honestly look a lot better than we expect as Champ Select starts. Like, I know people at home are saying, oh, you know, Renegades are a clear favorite. Okay, the last couple of games, but they're like the big top dog and challenger. But honestly, Imagine are much, much better than people think. They 2-0'd Cloud9 Tempest in their first week of games with Steelback. This team is at least the number 3 team here, and I think they can definitely challenge for the throne here. This is a roster that I think has a lot of room to keep going up, and we'll see just how well these teams do shape up today.
They need to shore up that early game, though, because Steelback gets that kill participation outside of lane when they're able to start these fights. That's where Chunky Fresh is able to make those engages.
Yeah.
Their early game is one of the worst of Challenger Series playoffs.
Yeah, top laner, mid laner, and AD carry all have negative CS differentials.
Yeah, they end up with about 1,000 gold down at 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's not a position you want to be in, especially against Renegades, which averages one of the best, 1,000 gold up. So this is a very, very intense thing here, because both these guys, like, I actually want to go over Imagine's history for a second. This is a team that got in by winning the 3rd place match against CLG Black.
Yeah, in the qualifiers.
And that spot was only open because Fusion was not able to retain their spot in Challenger.
Yeah.
So Imagine wasn't really supposed to be here. They squeaked in off of Fortune, and then when they made it, they went through so many different roster changes, and now they found a team that worked, went straight 4-0 with Steelback at the end, and now they're here in playoffs as the 3rd seed, going up against a team that was favored to win the entire thing from the start.
Yeah, and clearly Renegade's not immortal, but of course still a very strong team. You've still got some very great players with names like Crumbs and Alex on the roster, so it just depends how they bring it out today. You're seeing bans coming through. We are on 5-14, by the way. The first pick Thresh for Amelia, no surprise. The Braum dropped away a little bit, surprising me just because of the fact that the other good supports are there, but 2 Runeglaive, I guess you consider Elisa Cinderhulk potentially as well, but 2 bans away from Crumbs.
You'll most likely build her Cinderhulk. The difference between building her Cinderhulk versus Runeglaive is more fun.
Yes.
But the damage difference between them is actually not that high.
Because of the burn.
Exactly. Okay. So the Cinderhulk actually ends up being a little bit better because you stay alive longer. So I've actually done Elise mirrors where one of them has Cinderhulk, the other one has Runeglaive, and you just build like full AP and like tank and stuff like that. You really actually do want to be the Cinderhulk Elise.
All right, well, either way, Elise not going to be in this game, so no Cinderhulks on Elise this game whatsoever. Meanwhile, Twisted Fate away from ManCloud. No Sivir for Steelback. I think it's a very smart choice, but it just leaves Team Imagine to grab 2 of the best champions in those roles. 5.14 Azir still picked up. Callista, of course, still top of the table.
So they let Thresh go over to Remelia. We always talk about it. Don't let Remelia have Thresh. Well, they ban the Nidalee over that for Crumbs. They ban the Elise over that, make sure Crumbs doesn't have those champions. But that leaves open Urgot to go after the Callista, because you pick the Callista early because Sivir's banned. Steelback wants one of those top 4, top 3. He could have gone with Tristana, but this is Maple Street. This isn't Jeebus playing. Maple Street has played Urgot the majority of his games that we've actually seen Maple Street on this roster.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's good at the champion, so Maple bringing out his own specialty into this one. Of course, if we go off of the Runeglaive hype in 5.14, which was buffed this patch, Runeglaive doing even more damage to jungle monsters. It's one of my favorite jungle items now, but at least the Cinderhulk champion's up, and the age-old Rek'Sai versus Gragas matchup is still here to get played out. Moon, though he's normally considered one of the carry forces for the team, is going to be playing a tank now in this jungle role, and it's going to leave... Honestly, with Chunky Fresh playing mostly the Scion games for himself, it leaves that only Callista and Azir as the damage sources here.
Yeah, well, they're going to need a lot out of Callista here, and that's usually how they operate, right? You're going to have a tanky top laner for Chunky Fresh. Moon, he's going to be able to do some damage with the Gragas, but this team does operate off of a 2-threat type of even personality, just the players.
Sure.
This is the threat that they usually bring to the table.
Yeah. Yeah, Moon ends up banning away 2 of his carry junglers himself, and that's what he's going to be left with. Now, Renegades did pick their last few champions here. Orianna for Alex Ich. We're back to full Season 3 status. I actually think this is the right kind of choice for him. Yeah. I know we had Alex say in an interview he likes playing the long-range poke stuff. He just wants to be annoying, but I think he is best served on this type of champion, the stuff he was good at when he was one of the dominant mid laners in the world. And meanwhile, RF also gets a cover pick for himself in this, this Kennen. Renegades, honestly, in Game 1 playing basically entirely comfort.
Yeah, across
every
the
single
board.
person, you'd be like, yeah, it's like a champion. They play like top 3 champions in there as the player.
I actually had a note before that I took away because it was when times get tough, Alex Ich usually defaults back to comfort, which is his Orianna. In the play-ins where it was just single elimination, right? You're out in elimination matches. He seems to go for the Orianna when he's very serious. Gives him a lot of farm, gives him a lot of self-sufficiency, but he also has a lot to bring in team fights with that.
Absolutely. And it's being a pretty darn strong team fight comp. They do lack in mobility. There's no way to get this team in. I really, really want to see Remelia go for a either Righteous Glory second item or a Talisman of Ascension rush, because I think this team needs movement speed to get in. I think Kennen and Orianna Ball's not enough. But meanwhile, Team Imagine, of course, they don't exactly have long-range tools themselves. Maybe Imagine just starts the fight for them. The Scion train goes in, Gragas follows up. So just looks like a couple of big team fight comps, honestly, kind of facing off against each other. So that'll be kind of interesting to watch for. But we want you guys to know, we want you guys at home, to tell us who you think is going to win this game. So tweet at us for the first semifinal matchup of the summer. Tweet at LOL Esports with either hashtag RNGWin or hashtag IMGWin. We'll check your votes in just a few minutes into this one. But a spot in the Challenger Finals and a chance at an automatic spot in the LCS on the line here.
If you make Challenger Finals, you will at least be playing for a spot in the LCS, or you get that spot.
Right.
So no matter what, winning this game is actually a very big thing, because you don't want to go down to that 3rd, 4th place match, because you could just go back to Challenger again. Yeah,
you don't want to hit the 4th place mark. It just means you got to do nothing for about 5 months and wait for the next split to start. But basically, the way I like to think about it, if you win a best of 3, either today or tomorrow if you're Coast or Cloud and Tempest, you have 2 chances to win a best of 5 to join the LCS, whether it's against the other finalist or against one of the LCS teams.
That's true. We play BO5s if you're trying to enter the LCS. So promotion and finals are both BO5s. We're looking at Maple Street's Urgot right here, and I was just doing some math on it because I was like, how good is he on this champion? Well, he's 5-1 in 26 in his last 3 games, in the 3 games that he's played during the regular season.
He's a 31
so he's
KDA
a 31
Urgot.
KDA on Urgot.
That's awesome.
And he usually plays it into Kalista. He's either playing Tristana, Sivir, Kalista himself, or he'll go for the Urgot as a counter pick. That's when he whips it out. But the thing is IMG, imagine, we talked about them having 2 threats. It's ManCloud and Steelback. Well, if Maple Street is already neutralizing one of your threats, and that's Steelback, who is already a large portion of your damage and a large portion of your shot calling and kill participation, more rests on ManCloud's shoulders, who's up against Alex Each. I think this is a very good strategy to counter-pick Steelback with Maple Street.
Yeah, and of course, for the last week and a half, you knew exactly who your opponents were going to be in this matchup. You'd played your tiebreakers. You know what the semifinal match is going to be. And you can just take literally 10 days to play champion select scenarios in your head to say, okay, if we leave these up, what are they going to play for themselves? And you imagine Steelback would likely pick the Kalista, and Maple's just like, all right, yeah, I'm happy to play this Urgot. This is going to be a fine matchup for me. And again, we expect Renegades to be lane dominant. As far as the early game is considered, your Renegades are supposed to win these matchups here, both matchup-wise and player-wise.
And you can see the lane swap here is actually being called. Both are sending their dual lane to the top. This is actually very clever by RNG because you want this 2-on-2. Thresh definitely gets a lot of bully off very early, especially if the enemy's an Alistar. He can't really retaliate the damage that you throw out there. And then they get to double jungle on the other side. Kennen gets to show up to a lane where he has harassment over a Scion. It just seems like a really good lane swap call here.
Yeah, well, ManCloud right now playing very aggressively, missing some CS on the push in, but it looks like Alex will get some himself, starting with this shield to try to survive. But ManCloud honestly taking it to him and doing a lot of early damage here on the Azir, so that becomes interesting as the matchup pushes forward. You talked about the 2-on-2 matchup. I agree that it's very strong for Renegades right here. Wow, ManCloud hitting 2 first is doing so much damage to Alex, chugging through his potions.
And ManCloud said he has to step it up if he wants to be able to hold up against Alex. I like this Azir pick for him. It's a lot of damage, and there's not going to be a whole lot of threat on him, save for RF possibly flanking onto him after.
Yeah, and keep in mind, once again, this is the 5.14 Azir. Yeah, so 20% bonus attack speed already here. He's got 0.76 attack speed. He's got more than the Kalista does at this stage in the game. This is a scary Azir early game.
Your mid game, you have about, I think it's about 8 to 12% more attack speed, depending on what runes you were running, than you did before because of this change at level 1.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, you don't put that many points into your W until later.
Unless you do.
So you have a little bit of a dip. Well, you sacrifice so much damage from your Q.
From your E, you max W second, and then you
you max W second. But by that point, you may have already had the Morello, and then you would have had your CDR almost taken care of for you.
Not till 18 would that reach all the way back to the 50%. So yeah, we'll just see how it pans out.
You actually go higher now. You go 60% from
you can cap out. So it was 1.25, not 1.5 per CDR. I don't remember.
You could get to 50%.
Okay, so yeah, it caps higher. So that's always interesting. And ManCloud gonna do what he can to push people around. Might even. I wonder if actually Nashor's Tooth becomes a big build. I just haven't seen Azir's really in solo queue.
There's a lot of Nashor Tooth.
There's a lot more Nashor Tooth players now? Okay,
Yeah,
I guess
it has more AP
changes.
on it. It's just a really good buy for them.
Compared to Morello, same AP, but yeah, you lose the mana regen that you might have wanted in the champion. And we'll see what Azir ends up building. This is all far in the future.
Yeah, and it's stylistic too.
Of course. DPS versus mana, definitely a valuable thing to think about. We are trying to work out the lack of game sounds issues, by the way, that will be coming up in the near future. In the meantime, you'll just hear the two of us talk excitedly about League of Legends. Renegades are on the smallest of gold leads from the laning phase, as we expected, though, oddly enough, mid lane actually doing quite well for ManCloud. Not what we expected. Actually, even the AD carry matchup's +4 right here. I gotta say, imagine doing a bit better than we did expect.
Yeah, his creep wave is a little bit larger on his side, though, so Maple has a little bit more to pick up. It's not that much, though. It's about 2 or 3, so the difference between them is pretty much made up by him.
All right, just small leads across the board. We haven't watched RF very much up against Chunky Fresh, but I don't believe Chunky, of course he has no deaths, did not go for the death camp at level 1, so he did the standard double juggling that pretty much every top laner does, but it's interesting, as the meta evolved and as teams learn how to do level 1s better, one of Sion's hidden powers actually went away, because he wasn't the only good jungler at level 1 anymore. I just find that kind of interesting.
I mean, he could go do a buff by himself.
Yeah, but then he
go do an
doesn't
enemy
leash
camp.
for his jungler, you know?
Go do an enemy
It's
camp.
almost better.
Fine. Yeah, junglers really actually like that leash. You don't use as many potions. You keep them for later. You end up with a faster clear, same gold.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you know, with all this panning out, RF is actually still outlast hitting Maple Street here. So we are, of course, in default matched lanes. And even though the top laner started with a double jungle, with TP coming in, they're able to farm just as much as their counterparts here. So farm coming in for all lanes, which I think also, by the way, does help Renegades here. The fact that Kennen does have money, I think, is a big deal. Uses it better than Sion does, in my opinion, especially with the fact that Imagine already has plenty of tanks. They don't super need Sion to be huge for that team comp to work. So the large number of threats from Renegades is definitely going to be a big concern here. And even if gold stays equal, I think the early game is a very strong thing for Renegades right here. And Crumb stealing away camps even better.
And he also got to see that somebody's coming down the lane. So Bill tipping them off a little bit. That we're going to see Steelback show up in that bottom lane. The lane swap is coming because they don't want to have Steelback in that lane against Maple. You can see now he's down 12 CS right now.
Sure.
I don't know if they'll even swap it back now.
Yeah, honestly, it just depends how well they can mess with Sion. We know he's actually one of the better 1v2 champions, but honestly, Kennen should be okay as well himself. Yeah, he bought for the Kennen matchup, so that is an interesting situation to be in, going for Spectre's Cowl first on this champion.
I would probably swap it back, though. Maple Street's out of mana. He can't really harass him too much. And then you also get Dragon Control, so swapping it back is the right idea.
Oh, Chunky's going to miss the CS here. Can he stop? Nope, he won't.
No. Not a chance.
Kennen's already walked top lane. Yeah, RF was already on the way there. So Kennen rejoins Sion with a 4-minion difference. We're going to see what it looks like for Maple Street when he rejoins up against Steelback and Baby. To check real quick, though, bot lane is actually a it's not a freeze, actually. The minions are matched, and so not that many more will get denied, and I expect Maple to actually remain ahead in CS slightly over Imagine. Imagine's 80 carry over Steelback. He should be able to get these back.
Vermilion has been sitting this lane for a very long time. Maple is actually extremely late to this. Vermilion has picked up a lot of CS this time. And experience.
But that was Maple Street, by the way, late to recall, though, so he got a bunch of solo XP on the way out. So actually, still the levels are actually higher for the Renegades duo lane across the board. And RF is going to pretty much match here up against Chunky Fresh. So
he'll hit 6 first very soon.
And that's going to matter because Alistar without an ulti is definitely killable, especially with the swap coming in.
Yeah, you do see Moon hanging out on that side, though, looking for some action there. They saw Crumbs on the top side of the map, so Moon is hanging out on the bottom side of the map, making sure that nothing happens here, and also putting pressure on while they don't have 6.
Okay, so Maple hits level 6. If he doesn't swap,
could be a dive here.
Baby.
It's going to be a 2-on-3. No problem.
They're going to go in from really. Oh, what a flash gets away, but Baby could be re-pushed in. They don't go for it. Oh, that hook was amazing, though. Moon has to flash and ult to get out. Loses a lot of health that one. Amazing hook, amazing flash by Vermilion to make that play happen.
Wow, Vermilion. This is why you don't give Vermilion a Thresh. This is pretty much what. I'll say it once. Hopefully, I never have to say it again this game. Because I already said it in Champion Select.
Just keep saying it, man. Beating a dead horse is never a problem.
Well, the Crumbs gets red for all of that. He gets to hang out on the top side of the map. He will have another opportunity to counter jungle. And ManCloud has been aggressive all game long. And he went for the needlessly large rod first, as opposed to the mono regen. He did get the blue. They are being handed off to him. And they actually ping where Crumbs could be. And ManCloud seems in a position to actually react if something happens.
Well, we know Riley's Azir to be actually a pretty hyped up build. His soldiers apply the 40% slow here. Oh. Crumbs will not be allowed to get one of the big raptors. ManCloud does push him away, and unlike
I'd be careful. Alex is coming up.
You can try, but how long till the teammates show up? Raptor's going to just leash back one more time if Crumbs gets out. ManCloud can get this safely. And unlike the buff camps, the little pieces of these non-buff camps don't give away that much golden XP, so not really a very fruitful counter jungle by Crumbs.
He still got the red buff.
Yeah, that one's still big. That one's still
got the red buff. And Moon lost ulti and flash for his play down bottom.
Very true.
So in the whole net of what both junglers did.
Over the last 45 seconds, advantage Renegades.
Just barely, though.
Sure.
The flash does mean a decent amount. They traded it for Remelia's flash down bottom.
Yeah, Moon can't make the same kind of plays anymore.
Exactly. If they can make a play onto Remelia, though, good. I was surprised that Maple actually didn't go for a swap during that fight at all either.
I think he wasn't in range and didn't want to like blow flash to get in there.
It's very low range.
Yeah, rank 1 Urgot ulti is pretty short here. So Moon's ulti is back up, so Explosive Cast can be used on a target, try to set something up. He can't gank for Chunky Fresh, he's not going to do enough damage. ManCloud doesn't seem to be able to break through Alex Ich, so I think it would have to be, if anything, bot lane. It looks like so far they're not going to be aggressive. ManCloud checking his ability order, is maxing W second, so definitely going for that attack speed. He's pretty much going to be very happy at all times then about his total DPS. It's at 0.89 attacks per second, plenty high there. They know Crumbs on this side of the map. And he's not going to find too much for himself as he tracks Moon with Tremor Sense. Top lane, 10-minute difference. Minor lead once again for RF, and it's a 500 gold lead just for Renegades from the laning phase. Honestly, you gotta feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah. Crumb's got all the vision control around it, really done out a little bit, and now they're just picking up this dragon, no problem here. And also off of the back of ManCloud, they saw him back in mid lane, they knew that they were able to take this, no problem. And they just head back down bottom to their respective lanes. He
backed for a Giant's belt there. He's going to go for that Riley's build after all, and off that recall was an easy shove for Alex and an easy play for Dragon, so nicely called by Renegades here, definitely making some smart choices. Early game going their way just as we expected, but the strength of Imagine is not in this early game laning phase, it's in their later game play, so much still to be seen in this match.
Yeah, Crumbs looking bottom, they have all this vision control, and this build that ManCloud is going for is a good build if you keep getting blue buffs. If they're able to hold this blue buff to themselves on Renegade's side and starve him of it because they have all this vision control over Imagine, which you just saw, they don't have anything in that right side jungle. They're able to take this blue buff away. It's really going to put ManCloud behind and put this build in a place where you would have wanted a different item. But Crumb's going to go for something here.
Flash shot over to the knockup. Nicely done there. ManCloud flashing away and just says, thank you very much. I'll get away with this one. Did lose both his summoners. He barriered some of the damage there. Remains at half health, but that is a flash for a flash.
Yep, flash for a flash and a barrier. So it's definitely worth it on the side of Renegades. Now Alex Ich will be able to have kill pressure for a good while with his flash and with his heal up.
Very true. Something to watch out for then. ManCloud has to be much less aggressive and save the E for defensive plays to get away with this one. Thankfully, he is still going for a tanky build with this Riley, so maybe life ends up being okay. He's also running magic resist glyphs, so ManCloud identifying the fact that he might be preyed upon a lot is in a more defensive build. Unfortunately, misses the ward right there. He wanted to sweep it, couldn't quite do so.
There's also a pink ward in that brush as well. I want to see what happens with this blue buff, though, because they set up for it, and Moon helped push out the bottom lane. So they're applying pressure. They know Moon is on this side of the map, and that they want to hand this blue buff on. So you have to get this blue buff to his ear.
Moon really getting tracked around this jungle. There's so many wards on the side of the map. If you just look at it, there's literally 4 wards spotting this side of the map from Renegade's side, but yeah, no one around. Easily picked up. All right, ManCloud gets himself the blue buff. Still holding actually pretty solid in minions against Alex Ich. Never really dipped below, so that's actually, you said, again, ManCloud wanted to say he had to step up to do well in this matchup. Has done so. Unkilled, got ganked, still survived. Winning in minions. Just got something to say about his Azir play so far. Picked it first round red side. As payment for letting Remilia get Thresh. I missed a cannon though. Shameful.
But I mean, Chunky Fresh, we're talking about missing minions.
Yeah, very far down here.
It's almost 30 down.
He finally got to recall for Cowl and Merc Tread, so this matchup should be much better for him now. He can likely ignore Kennen to a certain extent, but Crumbs just living in this top jungle. His second red buff steal in a row. Moon just has to clear away a pink ward, and Crumbs knows he's completely safe. Moon says, oh, this camp's gone. Well, crap. I don't think Moon's going to be able to stop him.
He can't fight him, though. Especially with Alex coming up and the fact that ManCloud had backed.
Yeah,
so
Moon, wow.
Just has to suck it up there.
Chased out of his own jungle. This Sightstone Rek'Sai up 400 gold. Most of this gold lead that's actually held by Renegades, or at least half of it, is on Crumbs himself by out-pressuring Moon. He's gone for one gank and blown a flash for it, and otherwise just counter-juggled very successfully here. Moon will be late to the Sightstone, so the gold lead of Crumbs, the individual lead he's grown, actually translates into the team lead because of the wards he gets to put down. It's always nice to have.
So secured. As we approach the 15-minute mark, again, 1,000 gold up for Renegades, 1,000 gold down for Imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much right on
Those
the
tend
money.
to be the same thing.
Right on the money for the statistics. That's actually pretty crazy. But it's not what Imagine plays for. Imagine doesn't play for that early game. They play for the team fights. They play for when Steelback gets out of the laning phase, when ManCloud gets out of the laning phase, and Chunky Fresh can start these fights off on the right foot. If they were an early game team, you'd see Moon playing extremely aggressive style, but he's not. He's the guy who also contributes to these team fights. So Imagine's relying on that. Right now, though, you do see Moon looking for something bottom. He's just camping down here.
Yeah, his flash is up, so the big plays can be made once more. Alistair, of course, level 6. Steelback has the ulti, so the hard dive, the forced engage, certainly available for these guys, and I think they could put a lot of hurt down on this Thresh, who is just not tanky right now. Still, no health items for Amelia, sitting on 1,000 gold and hasn't backed for a Sight Stone yet, so a very squishy Thresh, all things considered. The Moby Rush, she's not getting in your own play, but also not getting punished for the lack of stats. And here's the recall from Renegades.
Moon's down here waiting in the brush, and they're actually going to get duped here. Because Renegades is backing, and Imagine is just all sitting in that brush.
Yeah. All right, well, no gains to be had down there. They could push for a lot of turret damage. They didn't choose to, though. They didn't have the knowledge enough. But that could have been a dead turret if they tried for it. BF sword on Callista definitely could have been plenty of damage there. But doesn't happen, so safe. Uninterrupted recall. Maple Street rushing Frozen Heart, second item. Very tanky Urgot now in this mid lane, going to make life very difficult for the Imagine one attack damage threat here.
Yeah, it'll also slow down ManCloud's attack speed when he's in range of the aura, so it is effective against him as well.
That was real close.
Yeah.
ManCloud had flash, so he's probably fine, but that was real close.
Looking for another dragon here for Renegades in the next 15 seconds. Frozen Heart completed, Manamune on its way. And Zonia's completed for RF already.
All right, so Sorkus and Azonia is a pretty much free farm. 161 CS, pretty much on course with the rest of his teammates. In fact, he's even got more than everyone else that Imagine not named ManCloud here. So big, rich game for them, level 12. So Cannon's got that rank 2 ulti. Catching a baby, he's gonna have to get the ult away from himself, and then Callista pops in as well. They go in for Maple Street, but they're on the wrong side, so Steelix have to be real careful. Swapped in. There's the big damage coming down. Smites in. That's gonna be the kill picked up. First blood comes on in, but here's Chunky Fresh. Big knockup, but how tanky is Maple? Well, very, but a double kill for the Alistair. Somehow the support gets 2 of them. Very bloodthirsty for this guy, but the chase still on. 2-2 in kills. Moon not able to do much more for himself. Kills traded.
That Emperor's Divide made that fight. ManCloud Emperor's divided off to the left side, and RF and Remilia could not make it into that fight. So it eventually became this just outnumbered on the right side and under the turret. So well played there by ManCloud, and well played as well to actually get that pick in the first place. They took out Baby, and they got Steelback, and they got a lot of summoners for it. But on their own side, on RNG, they had to blow a lot to make that happen.
Yeah, they lost a lot of cooldowns. Dragon did not end up getting picked up here, so just, you know, a small trade in gold, but the problem is it was gold all going on to Alistair here. Now, not to mention the first blood advantage.
That's the big problem.
Yeah, so Renegades even richer now, 1,500 gold ahead. Dragon number 2 in their sights, and it's not going to be stopped out here. It will, however, be a lane swap from Imagine, though, and this might allow them to take down top lane outer turret. Alistair already running through the jungle, warding up to make sure that Steelback's pressure can succeed without getting ganked. This is likely to work out well.
You gotta use all that money you got from that fight on some wards, put them down as fast as possible. Now that they're on the top side, they're looking for this turret tested. It looks like Maple Street's gonna go down bottom. This is the sack Maple Street lane, where he just farms all game. And then he'll eventually show up. Moon coming to the top side, though.
I don't imagine Maple dying to Chunky Fresh's Scion, but RF could definitely be a threat here up against this Callista, who just does not have much magic resist. Only 37 on her versus Sork Shoes. Moon's around. No, he got spotted by a ward on the way in, so this is not even going to be a successful push here. The Team Imagine push top lane doesn't do anything in time. He wants to do that Chunky Fresh matchup now. And that turret's still losing health here. I don't think this lane assignment's going to be very good here. Fan vote very clearly in Renegade's favor. I don't think there's much of a surprise on this one, but a slow burn of advantages for the blue side. Oh, nice flash knockup, headbutt into the wall. A lot of damage going to come through from Moon as well. And wow, the perfect CC layering. Ren puts him at 100 health. And how well will they chase this one? He's got Zonia's Hourglass up, pops it.
To Steelback.
Whoop, missed time, but he's still going to maybe go down?
No,
Oh, you're kidding me. Oh, God.
Oh, my God, another
He's gotta
kill.
steal it. Baby had to take it away. He mistimed the Pierce from Callista, and of course, Rend was down at the time. Thing is, Alistair could have landed an auto attack and makes it a W
Yeah,
proc.
exactly.
Meanwhile, the second version of this one on the other side of the map, it's not good for Chunky Fresh. He does have the ult, he pops it, runs far, far away, but guess what? He's got no turret to run to. He's got no teleport up either. This recall will not get him out in time. I don't think.
No, the Prey Seeker. The Prey Seeker will
He's
stop
gonna
him
land
very quickly. Oh, no, he's just gonna go right for it.
At least there will be no assist for Maple Street here, but Chunky Fresh has nowhere to go, and he's got no teammates around. I think he needs to die to the turret and just give the solo kill to Crumbs. He's going to waste some time, but he cannot give an assist to Maple Street.
Just waste as much time as possible.
Maple's coming down. He's got to run. He's trying to. He needs to die without Maple tagging him.
Gonna get the oh, it's pretty fast.
I mean, he is certainly wasting a lot of time here, to be fair.
Yep.
But he will not get rid of the assist. All right, here we go. Solo kill for Crumbs, finally.
But meanwhile, top turret's taking a lot of damage. They're actually going to come out net positive here on Imagine's side because of that play.
That was actually much better than I anticipated here. That was actually pretty damn impressive. Bot lane outer turret did go down, but Imagine did knock down 2 in the top side, playing around Steelback, who sadly only has assists, but Bloodthirster done, and plenty of money in the inventory means he can scale up pretty soon.
Yeah, you got to watch out for ManCloud, though. He's got the Stinger. He's looking for the Nashor's Tooth. And when he gets these autos off, they're still going to slow you with the Rylai's. So as soon as ManCloud turns online, gets the Nashor's Tooth, gets another item on it, this is the primary damage source on this team. It's very sustained damage, very tanky lineup. So if you choose a persistent fight against them, you're going to lose it. RNG is very front-loaded in their damage, too.
Oh, just missed the pulverizer there. Maple Street staying safe on that one. Do a bit of return damage. And yeah, you mentioned a sustained fight, but of course Renegades have plenty of what I would consider burst, actually. The damage comes out in all 4 seconds from the Kennen and the Orianna.
It's up front. If you can survive it, if you can keep them out of there, Kennen jumps in, you Alistar headbutt him out, no problem.
Gets him out.
Exactly. You have ways to get this Kennen out of the fight, and they drafted for it. Yeah. You can also just Emperor's Divide. Like, this is a Kennen's nightmare.
Yeah, and of course he has ways in as well. Flash Shockwave, he's got the Zhonya's Hourglass. There's always ways to make this happen. Vermillion can land him in after a hook, so it's up to the play of the players. I always find this so interesting, is that you get these games where it's like, if I told you one comp was way better and showed you what happened, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I believe that. But it could work the other way around as well, where you're like, no, Ken can dodge all these. Look how good he is.
To vision control.
Exactly.
Crumbs clears a lot of wards.
Yeah.
Places a lot of wards. You have TP spots. You have a lot of TP spots that are deep. You can TP to a tunnel. So there's lots of different things. Strategy is different than tactics.
Yes. They're kind of both, honestly, to be fair with this one. Both going to be very important. 1:40 on the next Dragon. Renegades got the first 2 uncontested. Team Imagine looking to make maybe a stand for this one. They don't want to give the movement speed buff away. Mid lane under fire. This time they probably could stick for it. RF's not in range, and if Imagine knew that, I feel like they could have really stood their ground for that one. Oh, ManCloud burned his ulti. And he's going to get super caught up here. This is not a good thing. ManCloud just, he's done. But a minute 18 on the respawns. Oh, man. RF, though. Going to die without getting to ulti, flash, or Papa Zhonya's baby. Tanky, Chunky Fresh as well. But one of the big damage sources is gone. Steelback cannot hard carry this fight. And that means down goes a second champion. No Dragon alive, but it's still an advantage for Renegades.
TP was used by RF. Chunky Fresh didn't use his. That's kind of the only thing that Imagine can walk away saying, you know, we still have this and we can make another fight happen. But
I don't think they can use it. It's a problem. There's no turrets to kill topside. And
Baron?
That means, oh, that's so risky to go for. They know Chunky Fresh has teleport, and there's even wards in the pit.
Slow Baron team, too.
It's still going to be interesting, though. There's still enough persistent damage here. It's going to be a little bit close. This could backfire for Renegades. It could work out without a hitch here.
It's about a 500 DPS team. It's going to take them another 10 seconds.
Swapping onto Moon. He's in a bad spot. That's the only smite on the roster here. Flashes away, jumps the wall. He stays alive. Chunky Fresh still in the front line. Hook's going to miss it.
Steelback, get in
These guys
there.
are losing a lot of health. Steelback has to be careful about getting in, though, because, of course, there's plenty of CC. Now Chunky Fresh flashes out, and in comes RF. They don't knock him away, but he doesn't get any damage done really to anyone but the front line. Chunky Fresh are running away. Maple Street doing plenty of damage. RF does not die to the Ren here. He's got enough armor, and the front line down goes ManCloud. Gets some damage out, but a kill finally comes through. Steelback has nowhere to go. He's going to get dropped out for this one, so another 2 for 1 in favor of Renegades. Yet again, these team fights keep working out for the blue side.
Oh, man. When you think your Rend is going to kill somebody.
And it doesn't.
And it doesn't. But the reason it doesn't is because you're getting auto-attacked by an Urgot.
Yep.
Oh, that just feels awful. So Renegades baiting out the Baron. And then getting clapped on very slowly, though. You see Imagine still have a lot to work on. It's a very slow collapse. And it's very uncoordinated. It seemed like desperation there. Moon jumped in a little early. He got swapped in. He got too close too early.
Yeah, and that's the thing you mentioned. You mentioned it was a slow Baron killing team. RF was dead. Alex Hitch doesn't exactly have crazy damage. No Nash's Tooth Orianna here. Maple Street build tank items. So you're right. They could have been much more patient with that one. Of course, it's hard to make those decisions in tense games like this.
And swapped in. He's getting the vision over the wall. He got swapped in by Maple, so good by Maple on the positioning. But then Steelback is still running around, trying to find a position on this, waiting for ManCloud to show up. Because when you're the single threat on the front line, has to flow his flash here. And then they go all focus RF. They can't get him down. Chunky Fresh right there. Oh, the
Ignite was on him too. Just wasn't quite enough damage.
Almost.
But now comes on the wrong side though. He went down mid and in and just got chunked right by the roster.
Yes.
Like walked on the crumbs.
Steelback was trying to take out Vermilion and get something for it. It could have been 2 kills for 2. But it didn't work out that way. Chunky Fresh on the other side. He's going to use the TP now. Where's the location? In the pit!
3-man combo. Here they come. Moon wants into this one. The box used and Baron is hitting the Imagine tanks right here. Pulverize, I believe, was used to hit nothing. Shockwave hits another 3, and here comes RF. Knocks it all
There's the 3!
The back line. There's a hit again for Chunky Fresh, and how good is ManCloud's damage? Knocks back the front line, but no, he doesn't get swapped in. The CC is interrupted, and ManCloud still trying, but Baby dies to Baron and RF, and it's a 2 for 0 yet again. RF unhindered here, and the chase is on. ManCloud, the only healthy member left. Chunky Fresh gonna get slowed down, gonna get picked up. Another team fight win here, a 3 for 0, and Imagine cannot buy a fight.
That was well played by Renegades. This is a team that only has, honestly, 1 or 2 tanks. You have Crumbs, and then you have a little bit on the Urgot, a little bit on the Thresh, but they're playing it perfectly with the shields, with the kiting around and creating these zones that you have with the Orianna ball, and you also have the zone of the cannon. But Imagine, they just have balls of stats. Everybody goes to the pit, you back off.
Some help on Baron. They're still trying to mess them. Crumbs is very low, though. This could be a re-engage, potentially. But the recalls come through, nothing yet picked up. Maple will be safe. Now, mid lane outer turret did go down, so Steelback still made a decent choice for himself. I feel like, though, Imagine could have dedicated their entire team to mid. ManCloud could have been there. They could have 5-man pushed it, or 3-man pushed it, I suppose, and made some pressure there, but we're still seeing Imagine trying to fire back. It's a 4,000 gold game.
It's a great 3-man knockup. Moon throws the ultimate out here, and it doesn't do a whole lot. He gets ultied in, he throws it, boom, separates them, then Chunky Fresh goes in, hits 3. Alex takes the damage but doesn't get knocked up. And then ManCloud, I honestly feel like he's not close enough to this fight just yet.
He doesn't have the luxury of target selection, though, right? He's got to be afraid of Shockwave. He's got to be afraid of swap.
Well, Shockwave's already used. Swap.
Yeah, at that point. But as a general situation.
And he got swapped at the start of it, too. And then they broke it. So I felt like he could have been a little closer to that with his wall up, but they were still taking Baron damage. That's the biggest part of that, is they were taking Baron damage the entire time.
And it worked out in Renegade's favor, so Baron Nashor buff on them with a 3, now 4,000 gold lead means a lot can be done here. They only cracked the outer turret up till now, but with Baron buff, that could be a whole lot more. 2 minutes to work with. Knock on the front door of mid lane. Imagine still do have some decent wave clear for themselves with this Azir and this Gragas. And you're seeing it's going to be a very hesitant Renegades right here. RF split pushing on the bottom side of the map. I like this choice here. Imagine have shown that they don't really have the burst to make these picks happen. They're just not breaking through the tank stats.
Yep. Sustained damage.
Yep.
2 damage dealers. It's a 2-threat composition.
And when everybody has some kind of tank stats, like a Zhonya's on RF, the Frozen Heart on the Urgot, they just don't die in time.
Yeah, and you're not going to be critting people with the Kalista. You're not going to be able to just get through these shields. So your sustained damage.
Wow.
The Urgot cooldown back up. Is the Orianna shield back up? Is the Thresh shield back up?
And Steelback went QSS third. I don't think they could win with a build like this. I know he's getting it for the Urgot. I know this is the magic damage he's got to be afraid of. Kenyon can mess with him, Orianna can mess with him. But the problem is you're facing about 150 armor on every single opponent you face not named Orianna at minimum, right? Everyone else has more than that. And you're just not going to break through that front line. You're just not going to kill them, and you can't win fights without Steelback doing more damage. I'm not sure this build's going to work out. I don't think this front line's going to die anymore from Renegades.
She's still got 80 armor, too, when the ball's on her.
Yeah. I guess Thresh only has 72, but...
On that Thorn Mail from Crumbs, that's a really smart buy.
Yep.
That's a really smart buy here. You're going to be making Steelback really wish he had double lifesteal at this point.
He can't afford that. He needs Last Whisper and then a Ruin King. Like, that's going to take forever. And even though Steelback has pretty good minion stats for himself, he's got 11,000 gold. He's the richest member on the team. Unfortunately, the first 3 kills he only got assists on. Unfortunately, they had to go to Baby because they didn't have the damage to get him farther ahead. This actually could have been a very different game if someone else got those kills, because hitting Hurricane for a big team fight when Steelback dies and buys it afterwards, like, you got kills that would have been yours, and all these things matter in games this close.
Yeah, at the start, he had Bloodthirster and Boots, and I was really waiting for the Hurricane because you kept going for these. They kept going for these team fights where you really wish you had a Hurricane to just stack up Ren, even if it's on minions that are nearby, to get a reset on it.
Well, Dragon number 4 spawning in 2 seconds, and what else? Renegades are here on time, ready to take this one down for themselves. They didn't get a whole lot out of Baron. They got bottom lane tier 2, and they got some minion wave control. They got themselves a 5,500 gold lead. You're going to steal a blue buff here, but Renegades just playing the slow, patient game around objectives. All the team fights, they baited them. They said, yeah, we'll be at Baron. You show up, we'll win this battle. And it's always been true.
Yep. And Crumbs with the 100% kill participation has been a part of every fight and every angle of every fight. And he's been itemizing very appropriately. You get the Aegis very early on. Make sure Mancloud is going to destroy everybody. You got the early Sightstone. You get the... What?
Alex Itch got Zeke's.
Oh.
Zeke's on Orianna as his 4th item, sorry, Void Staff.
I love
and he finds
Zeke's,
to Maple.
I love Zeke's Harbinger when you have somebody on your team that usually doesn't get crit. You'd bind with a Riven, you bind with the Jax, you bind with something that does a lot of damage, gets a lot of AD, and then when you give it that crit, it's absolutely insane. And then you increase your own AP. These are the types of things that I was expecting to see with Zeke's, and I really, really like this. Because the point that you get it in the game is one of those points where you're kind of like, well, I don't want to buy this first. I don't want to buy this second. If I'm a support, I'm probably never going to get this item unless the game's already over. I see some duo Qs actually rush it, and then they're just like Jinx or Vayne with this bonus AD, and they just destroy a team fight. But this is, I think, is very, very unique or very great way to use this item.
Also, these are probably 2 of the best champions at acquiring sacks. They have very low cooldown, high spammable spells. Alex gets the AP, Maple gets the crit from it, of course, but they're spamming Q on a sub 2-second cooldown. They're auto-attacking actually reasonably frequently for both these champions.
Oh, especially Orianna, too.
Sure.
You want to weave those autos in there.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, just tons of synergy for both these guys. Not only do acquire stacks, but use them. Really interesting to see this come out. I think it's a very smart choice. Really, really do like this.
And it's a 50 AP item. That's always something I was looking at, too, is it's a...
Not too bad.
It's a 50 AP, but it's also got armor on it. You were talking about not having Last Whisper.
Yep.
It's 35 armor. Last Whisper is
124 armor.
Exactly. He has 124 armor, but there is a Last Whisper finally for Steelback. He was able to purchase that. He was sitting on about 2,300 gold.
Well, yeah.
He had about 2,000 gold last time I saw him, and then he was just, okay, I'll wait for 2,300, buy the entire thing, and he's good to go.
Well, he's got it just in time. Baron Nashor respawns in 45 seconds, and average armor of your opponent's approaching that 160 mark. 180, 180, 99, 170, 70. Good luck with this one. Steelback going to do what he can. He did max Pierce first, does have maxed Ren now, though.
I want to watch this Zeke's because Zeke's is kind of like a Gnar bar. You want to fight when you're approaching.
You build up the middle of the fight so easily.
Yeah.
Even if it's at 0, it doesn't matter. They're going to get 1 or 2 activations per team fight.
Yeah, with these 2.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
That's why. Like
these 2.
They're going to have 12 seconds of empowered no matter what happens. Yeah, it's going to be fine.
If you get a flat auto attacker as the person you're bound to, like a Jinx, you're not going to be getting that many spell casts off, and it just doesn't feel that great in the middle of a team fight. You'll get it maybe once if you prep it.
Yep.
Here you'll get it probably twice.
Here we go.
It's actually very crazy. That makes Urgot even better when you're in this type of fight.
And keep in mind, Urgot has a lot of attack damage. His crit is valuable on this champion.
They're ping and go.
There you go. Moon wants in. Explosive cast back. If he looks for Amelia, can't go get the kill.
Oh, here comes
so
the crits.
low. Chunky Fresh does not land his Maple Street, doing so much work. In goes RF to the back line. Steelback forced to flash. 2-man shockwave on the takes. Crumbs onto Steelback. Gonna get knocked up. Gonna take a plenty of damage. And maybe the cleanup happens. You've already gotten 1 for the AP carry. And Mancloud ManCloud is still alive for now, but there's not much left to do. RF on the chase, ManCloud on the run, has a turret here to help him out, but he's not gonna have a good time against Maple Street. Does not land the lock on though, so still trying to run, lands it slow, not gonna survive this one. Down goes the fourth member of the team. It's a 4 for 1. Stubach wants back in, gonna kill off RF, a 4 for 2, but 3 men killing Baron is gonna be enough.
Yeah, they just don't have the damage on the side of Imagine to actually deal with Renegades. Renegades has a lot of damage, a lot of people who can make themselves vulnerable. You have people who have lots of shields. You're not going to be able to burn through them, and the persistent fight is actually going the way of RNG. And as Zeke's procced at the start, it turned online, and then you saw Maple actually crit 2 or 3 times in that fight to take out the first member.
I mean, you see how much magic this was stacked up by Boone. He's got literally 0 armor items trying to deal with the Orion and the cannon. Just not going to happen here.
And they turn golden, that's when it's active. Boom, 1 crit, 2 crits for 400 right there. Yep. He was killed him. Swaps ManCloud in, and ManCloud has to deal with Maple Street on him. And now he's on the back foot. And then Remilia does get killed, but Steelback the entire time is running for his life because of the threat that's on him from Alex.
And Maple really only got to attack to support the entire fight, was zoned out by the fact that he can't approach Urgot on the other side of this one at all.
But when you kill the jungler and the person who initiated outright at the start,
yeah,
you're in a really good spot. Chunky Fresh was still coming down the lane when that was starting. Yeah. If you had Chunky Fresh's ultimate right off the back of that, maybe it could have been a better fight, but even then, it's just such a hard team to shred through.
Yeah.
And on top of it all, it's really funny to say because you usually don't think of Kennen as a very tanky member. Well, he's got Zonias. He's going to get shields on him. He also has, during his lightning rush, he also gets bonus stats.
Yep.
He
Honestly,
gets those
life
bonus
is good.
instances.
Yeah. Life is good for Renegades fans right now and the Renegades players as well. Approaching a 9,000 gold lead here. Money on everybody. RF level 18 already. Just buying a nice sort of tanky build here. The cheaper Zonias, of course, helps him a little bit. I think that actually boosted Kennen's viability slightly. He was already, I thought, a fine champion, but a 3,000 gold Zonias, 300 gold cheaper Zonias, I think is actually a really big deal.
I think a lot of things with the AP item changes buffed Kennen.
Riley's the 40% slow on his ultimate.
Trying to go still.
All right, they're going to catch up Alex Hitch, who does have no Zonias, but gets lanterned right out. The fight begins, but now the battle lines are appropriate for Imagine here. Maybe the front line holds up and it works out okay. Baby got to be careful, though. No ulti up for Steelback means they can't save this Alistair.
For Hook.
Still the damage, 2 more crits, 622 damage apiece on that one. And there's a push in. Chunky Fresh got nowhere to go himself. He's going to go for the knockup, but not nearly enough can be done there. 2 for 0 yet again.
That was a 4v5 for the majority of that fight. RF was not there. He was at the bottom river for the entire fight until those very last moments. They get a turret for it. They're just going to push up the middle. They'll get an inhibitor turret for this, possibly an inhibitor because they have Baron.
Yeah, they've got so much to do. They could maybe even try to end the game if they were greedy enough here, but Dragon 5 is on the field right now.
Better
20 seconds on. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the right choice. This thing they could have tried, and maybe you were going hypey. But Dragon 5 on the map, all 5 members alive, going to be an easy aspect for them. I can't see Imagine contesting this properly.
Going for it, trying to end out the game with the Dragon 5 and pure objective control for Renegades. They haven't let Imagine into any of these. They've been taking fights as often as they possibly can. Renegades knows they can win the team fights. They know they're winning the Vision game. And if you're Imagine, right now you're thinking, what do we do in game 2?
Yep.
We ban an Urgot, we get rid of the Maple Street, what are we doing?
I think this was a comp fail, honestly. They just didn't have, like, the thing is the pieces of comp were pretty good.
They were.
So I think there were a couple things that went weird. So they had, I would say the early game was even fine. Like even the kill-wise, like it was okay. They were 3-3 for a while. Yeah, okay, the wrong guy got it, but like you don't say, all right, guys, in game 2, Alistair don't take kills, right? Like no one does that on purpose. Yeah. So here's my thoughts on Imagine, basically. Comp-wise, I think they were maybe okay, but the problem is they were all on the engaged train, and so no one was there to headbutt out Kennen. RF never got stopped at best. Gragas would knock back the team, and they try to separate Kennen. That's okay, but they never just said, like, no, get out, your ulti doesn't do anything. They never went for that kind of a team fight where they said, let's reset it and try again. And so they're all on the engaged train into a 3-threat team, which is not going to work. Yeah.
I know he's in there.
There's the reveal.
He wants to go for the multi-man knockup. Doesn't have flash.
Much, does slow him down. There's one more knockback, a 2-man stun from Chunky Fresh as well, but they're not doing enough damage here. Crumb's now stuck in the front line. They're going to pull in Baby. Breaks the Banshee, though. RF can't do really enough damage here. Another knockback in Millie, but nope, not going to happen there. Down goes Alistair. Ulti already timed out. ManCloud going to be jumped as well. Down he goes. It's already 2 for 0. Renegades could easily close the game up. This one, the push on in. Steelback nearly dead. Chunky Fresh one hit away. There's the long-range Q from downtown. Shockwave lands another. Just too many shields to go down as well. 4 for 0 in favor of Renegades. The hook on a Chunky Fresh, who was already dead in the first place. This is going to be the game-winning push right here. Minions already in the base, and game 1 going to Renegades. One more, they guarantee themselves at least a spot in the Promotion Tournament.
The Renegades, when they came in, they had 3 losses, and they blamed all 3 of those losses on composition and draft.
Yeah.
They had a really good draft here.
Yeah.
Really well thought out, and there was counter picks in it too. Making sure the Steelback, he's on Callista, you banned out the Sivir, don't let him have that champion, and then you pick Urgot into it, just seemed really good. And also running Maple in this seemed to be an extra edge, because I don't know if Jeebus would have been able to play the Urgot or if he's up to speed on it, because it's a very comfortable champion for Maple.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think this was largely a good game by Renegades. They play a pretty slow style in general. That's how that team tends to work. They rely on their laning mechanics, and to be fair, they were all top-notch this game. They did just fine.
That's true.
But yeah, I agree with you entirely on the composition point. They shut down the Callista with the Urgot. Even if she didn't get wrecked in CS, the Callista got hit by the Urgot passive and couldn't assassinate people. There was a big armor stack, and they made the choice to not itemize against ManCloud and just try to kill him in team fights. Try to make him scared. Use Urgot swaps. Use, flash shockwaves or flash Rek'Sai knockups. And ManCloud, you mentioned his positioning a couple of times. ManCloud never got to just sit there and free hit. He went for a more defensive build with the Rileys instead of going for an earlier Death Cap or a Ludens.
There's a lot of threat
and
on
break
it.
through.
You're going to get hit by a hook.
Of course.
Maybe flanked by a cannon. You always have to be conscious of where Crumbs is and where the ball is at the same time as you're going to get swapped in by Maple.
Sure.
And speaking of Maple, Maple did 32,000 damage this game. He's the highest in the entire game. When you look at Orianna, 20,000. Yeah. 32,000 versus 20,000. He's doing about 12,000 more damage than Alex was doing there.
Yeah.
So Maple Street on this Urgot and having that Zeke's Herald actually ended up being really damn good.
Yeah. Honestly, a pretty damn solid thing. I really like the choice in items. It did mean that Alex could not get a Zonius. I think that is definitely a potential concern. He ended up being okay, but it's just always out there as like, well, if he got caught out, it was going to be bad. But the game was slow-paced enough that Renegades always had flashes up. They were always controlling the pace of the fight. And honestly, we never saw Imagine get to dictate. They would engage fights that they were never able to win. They were never setting up on objectives first. Renegades always was first there, first with the wards. Crumbs did such a good job of that, of course. So that was obviously very impressive. And it was just like, Imagine never had the ability to do that.
And when you talk about dictating the pace of the game, it's strange because people always talk about, they have the ability to engage. But being able to engage and engaging doesn't mean you're dictating the pace of the game.
Yeah.
Because what Renegades was doing was they were setting up, saying, you have to engage into us
Crumbs
or
by
we
himself
get
doing
this.
it. Right.
So there was a lot of that going on, and I really like that because that shows that Renegades has a lot of knowledge of how their composition operates,
and
not just by itself, but against this other composition.
But we always knew that about them.
Yeah.
I think my favorite game of them from the split was their game 2 against Cloud9 Tempest. It was on stream. They played mid lane Yasuo, and they said, we know our comp sucks first 50 minutes. We'll give you first 2 dragons and the first 3 turrets.
They figured it out eventually when they pulled Alex from the split push, and then they put him at the Baron. But that's the thing is, we know that they know this, but the last few weeks, it didn't look like they knew even like how to draft a composition that they knew the ins and outs of, and then they went for comfort here, and that's what seemed to make the difference. Yeah,
but it did gel. So, of course, a great game 1 here. Now, we are going to step away for a few minutes, but when we return, Renegades look to punch their ticket into the Challenger Finals with one more victory. Game 2 between Team Imagine and Renegades is right after this. You never explode. You always stay potato.
Potato?
I go French fry, you stay potato.
Blood comes on in, but here's Chunky Fresh. Big knockup, but how tanky is Maple? Well, very, but a double kill for the Alistair. Somehow the support
I've never heard it
gets
called
them.
potato
Chunky
before.
Fresh does not land as Maple Street doing so much work. In goes RF to the back line. Steelback forced to flash, 2-man shockwave on the takes. Crumbs on to Steelback. No ulti up for Steelback means they can't save this Alistair. For Hook, still the damage. 2 more crits, 622 damage apiece on that one. Steelback nearly dead. Chunky Fresh 1 hit away. There's the long range Q from downtown. Shockwave lands another.